All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our college application essay workshop. This is one that we have hosted here at Farmingdale High School for a number of years. And before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm Dr. Thompson, the principal of Farmingdale High School, and I want to thank you all again for prioritizing this workshop tonight. If you're here tonight, then you really are thinking ahead, planning ahead, and are in a good position to start drafting an essay that works for you. By the time the fall comes around, you'll be in a good place, which is really why we offer this in February. Too much goes on for juniors between now and that time later in the year. I want to start by introducing our panelists, which includes our guest speaker tonight. But first, some folks that you should be familiar with. Mrs. Martinez, our assistant principal for the 11th grade.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're really appreciative that you guys could be here, and remember that we're always here to support all of our students, okay? And I know it's a difficult and challenging year, but we're working our way through it, and we're here to support.
And along with Mrs. Martinez, we have the Director of Guidance and Social Work, Mrs. Maureen Maloney.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is just one piece, a very important piece of all of the steps that we're going to help you as you navigate a year from now when you're deciding on which college you want to go to.
And finally, our guest speaker tonight, Mr. Randy Levin. Mr. Randy Levin is this is his area of expertise and has been working with students for years now in the college essay process, more with revising as well as offering this front end look at how to approach your college essay. But an expert who's been published on the topic, who does this workshop for us for free. And we're really happy to welcome Mr. Randy Levin to our school and in the virtual format this presentation tonight. So without further ado, Randy Levin.
Great, thank you so much. It's the last time I was at your school was in person last February, right before all this craziness hit. So I hope everybody's healthy and safe and as sane as you possibly can be. So we're going to talk about and I appreciate being called an expert. The definition of an expert is just somebody that has a really good PowerPoint presentation. So I don't know, usually from out of town, So we're going to talk about the whole essay process. So I thought the best way of starting is really to depress you all. It's a New York Jewish thing. If you're depressed, I'm depressed, we're all depressed. So I'm going to just show you some numbers. Now, my examples happen to be the Ivy League, but these numbers have filtered through every tier of college. So this is certainly not about the Ivy League. This is about every college, but it's sort of a reality check and it will tie into the essay. So Harvard, 43,000 applicants. They took 1,900 students. Yale, 36,000. They took 2,100. Princeton, 32,000. They took 1,800. MIT, 21,000. They took 1,400. Columbia, 42,000. They took 2,100. And Brown, 38,000. And they took 2,500. To break that little SAT myth, Harvard turns down about 500 students a year with perfect SAT scores, 1,100 with 800 on their math. So now that you're depressed, all right. So a few years ago, New York Times had this amazing article, Rethinking College Admissions. And to be honest with you, when I first saw it, I got nervous. I thought they were going to say no more essays, and then I'll be like 80 years old working at Walmart. But thankfully, it said everything that I've been saying for years, which is colleges have driven you people crazy, parents, students. They draw you into this competitive frenzy, manic resume padding. This whole process, look, when I went to college, I have to be honest, I don't even remember if I had an essay. But if I did, I can guarantee you that I was laying across my bed watching Gilligan's Island on Channel 11, eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I probably wrote the essay in pencil. There's no way I would have shown my parents. And if you told me there were jelly stains on the envelope when I mailed it, there's a good chance. Now it's gotten insane. Look, in the past, it was enough to do community service. Now you have students starting their own foundations. In the past, it was enough to be on Mathletes. Now you better solve Fermat's last theorem. I don't know what that means, but my wife's a math teacher. In the past, look at me, I'm special, I gave blood. Now it's look at me, I gave a kidney. You have to remember what the purpose of this essay is. It's the purest part of the application. It's what colleges can't see via grades and standardized testing. And as mentioned, we were talking about before we started, now because of COVID, the SAT has become optional. The essay is the best shot at them seeing who you are. Now, I used to say it this way, like many people, it's the only tool a college has to figure out what makes you unique. However, I no longer like this word unique. After I read this article, the president of UPenn said, our admission officers are looking for something that is authentic and imperfect. And to me, unique is kind of, it's really vague, but authentic and imperfect is exactly what they want. They want real people. They don't want manufactured. They don't want the appearance of being perfect. The admissions person's job is partially to figure out what's real and what's window dressing. Community service is a perfect way to look at this. So about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a town school district on Long Island where a high school had everybody read this particular book. And then on a Saturday, the author came and they had these breakout sessions. And when I first heard about it, I thought that sounded really cool. And then I discovered that the mother of a student who works in publishing arranged the whole thing so her son can put that on his transcripts. And again, colleges are getting wise to that. In fact, your part-time job at Ralph's Ices is more important to colleges than you going off to save rainforests, in Costa Rica. Your family obligations, they want real people. They want authentic. They want imperfect. They don't want, manufactured. So we're going to, with that in mind, authentic, imperfect, we're going to talk about the top 10 mistakes students usually make. First of all, writing about academic accomplishments. So if you think back to the 6th grade and your core group of friends, you've since then drifted apart. They're going to be voted most likely, you're going to be voted most likely to succeed. They're going to be voted most likely to commit a felony. The point is, like-minded people are applying to the same schools. And again, it doesn't matter what tier schools, whether you're applying to the Ivy League or middle range schools, it doesn't matter. Everybody applying to that range, they all look alike academically on paper. You're not telling them anything special. It's what everybody else is like. There's also this element of deja vu. You have to remember that the admissions officer is already sitting with your transcripts in front of him. He's got your grades, your letter of recommendations from your guidance counselor, from your favorite teachers. So talking about these academic accomplishments is sort of meaningless. The other thing you want to really avoid is trying to appear to be intellectual. The thesaurus is not your best friend. Words like plethora and myriad, which they have to be the 2 most overused words in the from the SAT, will drive these people crazy. And I laugh every time I see the word thus. You turn to your parents and you say, I finished my work. Thus, they're going to bring you to South Oaks to see what's wrong with you. Now, in supplemental essays, a college might ask, well, tell us about the books you read. And students do what I call mental jumping jacks. They're like, oh God, I read Twilight series or Harry Potter. I can't tell a college that. I'll tell them like Milton or Shakespeare. No. Authentic, imperfect, real. They want real. You like Harry Potter? Tell them you like Harry Potter. Of course, if you read this, you have other issues. I can't help you. Even in the phrasing of things, don't try to appear to sound intellectual. I want to partake in the diffusion of knowledge with high impact professors to diversify the angles from which I look at different issues. This drives admissions people into early retirement. All right, here's a really good, bad example. This was a student who thought, if you sound smart, From an early age, we accept death as the inevitable, but do not comprehend its actual denotation. Death is the impending future that all people must eventually grasp. In my early teens, my grandfather tragically perished. As a youth who did not identify with such a cataclysm, I was saturated, I love that, with various emotions. Initially, I was grieved by the loss of a loved one and could not understand why this calamity had to befall upon my family. I always considered death to have a devastating effect, but was shocked by the emotional strain it places upon an individual. I know nothing about this student. I don't know if it's a guy, a girl, an athlete, a STEM student, a musician. The only thing I know for sure is grandma's got this hanging in her condo down in Boca to show everybody how brilliant her grandchild is. But this tells me nothing about the person. We're going to talk about this later as well, but the problem with trying to appear to be creative, they tend to come out a little bit pretentious. How my life is like the phases of the moon, why these essays are actually meaningless. And my favorite one I ever saw, I can prove I am God. Yeah. We'll talk about creativity later. All right. So you also want to avoid the cliches. I'm hardworking, ambitious, and driven. I love to be challenged. I'll get to the thirst for knowledge in a minute. Now, I'm hardworking, ambitious, and driven. I don't care if you're going to Nassau Community College. They want you to be hardworking, ambitious, and driven. They want you to be challenged. These are expectations. Telling this to a college is not only cliche, it's meaningless to them. You should be working hard. And if you are a hardworking student, we could look at your transcripts and already know that you're hardworking. Plus, again, the letter from your guidance counselor, from your teacher, that stuff is going to be in there. My thirst for knowledge also puts them in early retirement. It's not really, look, you might love school and love to learn, but my thirst for knowledge is incredibly cliche. My peers often look to me for leadership. Now, here's the problem with telling a college outright that you're a leader. Think back to the like-minded students, the birds of a feather. So let's say you're the type of student that's a leader, captain of a couple sports teams, president of a couple of clubs. More than likely, most students applying to the same schools you're applying to are also captains and presidents and leaders. If everybody's a leader, who's joining the club? Plus, as a freshman in college, you're not going to be the captain. You're going to be the low man on the totem pole, and they're going to go, you, freshman, hand this stuff out. The college would rather that you understood collaboration, cooperation, teamwork. Your transcripts, it still has it that you're a captain, you're a leader, but you don't want to outright say you're a leader. Now, there will be supplemental essays. One may be you'll be able to write about the qualities you've garnered or the understandings you've garnered from being a leader, but talking about you as a leader is a really big mistake. Now, I don't know why I've seen this a lot. It's a little creepy, but apparently there's a lot of dead grandparents that have inspired doctors. Now, it's sweet, it's sentimental, but it's not really about you. And it's become very cliche. So you want to avoid these types of generic things. All right. For some reason, when it comes to the Common App essay, a lot of people think that they should write about what they want to major in. Now, here's the problem with that. Let's say, I love Breaking Bad, my favorite show, made me cry at the end. All right, let's say you want to go into chemistry. Well, more than likely on your transcripts, maybe you've taken AP chemistry. Maybe in the summer, you've had an internship, maybe at Stony Brook or at a pharmaceutical company. And now you write about your love of chemistry, you're going to become incredibly one-dimensional. The college will know nothing about you other than, yeah, you like chemistry. Plus, when colleges in the supplemental essays ask, why do you want to come to my college? And you want to write about the resources in their chemistry department. Well, you just wrote 600 words about chemistry. You're going to write, another 250 words. You're going to look really, really one-dimensional and very redundant. So stay away in your Common App for writing about what you want to major in. The problem with these essays, I always feel that you're thinking too hard. You're trying too hard. You didn't have to be abducted when you were, by aliens when you were 6. You don't have to convince your parents to throw themselves off a bridge so you have something tragic to write about. Here's the truth. The best essays are right in plain sight. In fact, your school last year when I was at Farmingdale, there was this beautiful, wonderful, smart young lady that came over to me afterwards. She had this amazing hair, not like braids, incredible long flowing braids. And all her ideas were like she was overthinking it. And I stopped her and I said, let me ask you a question. Your hair, is it a big part of who you are? Is there a reason that you have this long, incredible braided hair with these little really cool things on it? And then she started telling me the story of why her hair was so meaningful to her. And I said, there's your essay. That's about you. It's about you. It's real to you. So the best essays are right there in plain sight. You don't have to hunt for an essay. Just off the top of my head, I worked with a girl this year who had striking red hair, and she's was incredibly shy. But when you're the only redhead in a class, you don't get to be that shy. And how her red hair really helped mold her perspective and all sorts of other things. So the best essays are right there. Every one of you has a story. Don't overthink this process. Now, the supplemental essays are also very important. Don't forget about them. I could argue that they're more important than your Common App because they're specific to the school's community and their culture. Every college has something called demonstrated interest. How well do you know their school? A admissions person once told me about reading this brilliant essay about this kid's love of marine biology. The only problem is that school didn't have it as a major. So how well do you know the school? These specific supplemental essays are very important. So those essays, or at least the first major one of the supplementals, is the Why Us essay. Okay, why do you want to come to my school? Well, your first way of checking this out or answering the question is checking out the school website. But you want to be careful. This is actually, these are sound bites from a first draft. The multitude of educational opportunities provided by Penn makes the institution an extraordinary resource of knowledge. The research opportunities at Penn are also impressive as one of the world's leading research universities. The school's location in one of the country's premier cities. It's Philly, but whatever. I am also impressed with the social opportunities at Penn. I also admire Penn's focus on community service. I sent her back these sound bites with a note that said, congratulations, they want to hire you in their public relations department. Look how generic this is. This could be any student, any school, anywhere. You also, some of these essays, the Why Us essay, they could be as short as 50 words, as long as 250 words. You don't want to waste the words with this kind of stuff. Prestigious university, distinguished professors, unparalleled resources, a spectacular campus. In other words, don't kiss up. They don't care if you like their trees. This is one of my favorites from last year. Strolling around the tree-lined quad in the shadow of magnificent architecture, hearing students discussing issues ranging from evolution to hypothesizing Lincoln's views on current politics, the energy and intellectual diversity on campus was palpable. I sent this back with the notes that congratulations, your future as a restaurant critic is there. They don't want to hear this. They want you to be specific to academics, internships, clubs. When you read the school website, and here's the good news, this isn't research. A school website is no different than a brochure to buy a car. It's all laid out there. So what do they have that you want and why? Even traditions. I'll give you a perfect example. This one girl was reading a website. It's a top tier school, and they have this tradition that they have a radio controlled life-size skeleton that once a semester will walk across campus, go into a professor's classroom and ask the professor a question. If the professor gets the question wrong, the class is dismissed. And just one part of her essay, she wrote, look, I'm going to be 1,000 miles away from home. I want a sense of family, a sense of community. Knowing that your professors are going to have that kind of relationship with us, I know I'll be home. She was accepted to that college, and in the acceptance letter was a handwritten note that by the admissions person who said, I'm going to make sure the skeleton comes to your class next year. Why? Because it was authentic, it was real. You just got a sense of her. By the way, the skeleton did come to her class, but she was upset, not upset, but she said, but the professor got the question right, so class wasn't dismissed. When it comes to, you know, that little handwritten note, I always think of this. An admissions person at Tufts University once said to me, when I'm reading an essay, I know it's the right student. When I just start to smile and I think, I got to run into this kid next year just to say hello. How do you like it here? You having fun? It's about making a personal connection, and that's why it's authentic, it's imperfect, it's real. You're not trying to be something you're not. Just be yourself. This year, one of my favorite essays somebody wrote, lives on Long Island. I believe it's like Port Washington or Port Jefferson. He and his dad go on their boat. You know, they go fishing out, you know, every summer. He loves being on the ocean. And the stuff he wrote about being on that boat was so personal and so real. You got a real sense of this kid. All right. Obviously, things will hopefully change, and campus visits will happen again. At least I hope they will. Assuming they will. First, the official tour will be conducted by a student who's going to give you all sorts of information about the school, and there's going to be something in there that your tour guide says that you connect with and say, that's why I want to go to this school. Again, demonstrated interest. On my official tour, my guide told me XYZ. That's exactly what I want to experience. That's why I want to go to your school. It's also really important to experience students in their natural habitat. I always tell people, when you're done with the official tour, just go around and just talk to people. And I know every student says, yeah, but I'm nervous. What if nobody's nice? Well, if nobody's nice, don't apply to that college. And I also tell parents, if your teen is too nervous to go over to people, you go over and say, excuse me, this is my daughter. So unless you want to be mortified, just talk to people. And I promise you, they will throw so much information about their own experiences. Something's going to click with you that's going to be perfect for that essay. And again, demonstrated interest. Hey, this is what I discovered by one of the freshmen or seniors on campus. I can't wait to do that at your school. This is very important. When you're on a college campus, you really need to check out the class sizes. Now, if you have a classroom when things are normal before COVID, if you have like 25 students in a class and you walk into a college, classroom and it's 300, 400 people in a little theater, you might hate that. Conversely, if the professor's outside under a tree, with the guitar singing Kumbaya and wearing Bergen socks, you might think, oh, this is too touchy-feely for me. You've got to experience what the teaching learning style is like. And again, it's perfect for your essay. Was it experiential? Was it hands-on? Were they doing group work? Was it the kind of learning environment that you really like? So again, when you're writing that Why Us essay and say, look, I thrive in a hands-on environment, sitting in on Professor so-and-so's class, when they broke into group work and worked on, whatever, that's what I want. All right. So here's another big problem with these essays. You've all been conditioned since the first grade that every essay looks the same, right? Introduction, body paragraphs, conclusions. These are not academic essays per se. So I want you to just put yourself in the head of a admissions person. You're sitting in your little cubicle. You're reading essays all day, every day. This week, it's the Why Us essay. Why do you want to come to my school? It's Friday afternoon. It's 4:45. You look out the window. It's starting to snow. You figure, I'm just going to read one more essay and then I got to get out of here. You open the file and this is what you get. As a senior in high school, everyone around me, teachers, friends, parents, asks about the future on a daily basis. Emily, have you finished your college applications? Emily, what are you going to major in? Do you know what you want to do after college? I haven't even finished high school yet, but no one seems too concerned about that while I'm balancing running the demands of advanced placement schoolwork, tutoring, and applying to college. All everyone seems concerned about or what my major is and what I want to do with myself in the future. When I get asked these questions, I realize that while I've been actively pondering my future, I haven't made formalized plans on the field of study I want to pursue. Now, this is well written. If I'm the, let's say, advisor to the school newspaper, I tell her, I want you to write a column for every edition. I want the underclassmen to know what you're going through. But you are the admissions person. This is your face. I just want to know why you want to come here. They're not going to read this. As soon as they start this, they see what's going on, they're skipping. Now, it's not just because it's too long. Here's another problematic way to begin an essay. With over 3,000 colleges scattered across the United States to choose from, it might seem like a daunting task to pick one in which suits my needs perfectly. However, I truly believe that NYU is the perfect place to foster my interests for several reasons. This screams out to a college admissions person template. They know you're using the same introduction for every college and substituting the name of the school. How do I know that? This particular one, the kid that wrote it was applying to University of Michigan and forgot to take out NYU. Now, I see this 20 times a year. If I'm seeing it 20 times a year, colleges are seeing it, thousands of times. All right, here's a perfect one. Now, don't think of this as an introduction. Think of it as an opening. During my high school career, many of the most memorable lessons combine disciplines. As one of my teachers put it, one can't learn in a vacuum. The University blank encourages an interdisciplinary education, which will provide me with the potential of new discoveries and a greater understanding of how things are interrelated, while giving me the chance to take charge of my education, tailoring it to fit my goals. Okay, demonstrated interest. Not only does he know that this college is really big into an interdisciplinary education, he's experienced already and he knows exactly what he wants to do with it. In just a few sentences, I know, or the admissions person's going to know, he knows this school. Now, obviously from here, he's going to be more detailed what he wants to major in, what are the resources they offer, etc. But right from the beginning, in a couple sentences. So your opening needs to reflect why you want to go to that college. What do they have that makes it the perfect fit for you? Now, I could spend an entire presentation just on writing mistakes, but I don't want to put you all to sleep. But I have to mention one. It's the one that drives me the most crazy, although it's a short drive. Anyway, so I see this all the time. For the beginning of an essay, let's say the essay question is, what is your most meaningful extracurricular activity? Students will write, my most meaningful extracurricular activity is, okay, this is literally middle school formulaic writing. You're taught to write this way in middle school, and hopefully it's beaten out of you by the time you get to high school. But for too many people, it's not. And you're applying to college. And can you imagine an admissions person reading like 1,000 essays? My most meaningful is, my most meaningful is. No, it could be as simple as nothing compares to my experience in Model UN. The point is, never, ever, ever, for any essay you have to do for college, and for that matter, for anywhere, don't repeat the question as your first sentence. Break that habit, especially if you're applying to college. All right. So these are the topics that I usually say run for the hills, and I'll explain why they usually. The whole volunteering, saving the rainforest, that kind of thing. Now, sports injuries, this is interesting. Years ago, everybody could write about sports injuries. The problem is everybody tears their ACL now. The chess team is tearing their ACL. It's like becoming cliche. Death, disease, all of these things are relatively cliche. However, If your perspective is authentic to you, you could write about anything. So, perfect example. One of the Common App questions, it's been around forever. Tell us about a time you failed. Too often, kids would write things like, I tore my ACL, I went to rehab, now I'm the starting pitcher. Yeah, that's not failure. So I'm talking to this one student, and he starts by saying, well, in the 9th grade, I was the 4th chair violin. And I stopped him and I said, I know you're going to tell me your parents got you a private teacher. You're now the 1st chair violin. He said, oh, no, I'm actually the 5th chair violin. I suck at the violin, but I love being part of the orchestra. It became a brilliant essay that it's not failure if you participate. If kids want to go into science, or, whether it's medicine or research, too often their typical response is, my grandfather tragically perished. I want to be part of the team that comes up with the cure for blank. Or, it's the building blocks of life and the mysteries of the universe. This kid says in his essay, look, 11th grade, I got my schedule. I found that this girl that I've always had a crush on was taking this one particular science class that the teacher was notorious that on day 1, he assigned you a lab partner, and that was your lab partner to the end of the year. He actually had a picture of the Supreme Court over his desk and would say, they're not overturning my decision. In life, you're going to have to learn how to deal with all sorts of people. So I'm assigning your lab partner, and that's it. So he thought, if he can get his guidance counselor to put him in that class and get the teacher to make her his lab partner, he's got like a whole year to like win her over and talk in the third person. And, so he goes to his guidance counselor. She puts him in that class before the beginning of the school year actually starts. He seeks out the teacher. He explains the whole thing. The teacher thinks it's hysterical. First day of class rolls around. He makes the girl his lab partner. Within a couple weeks, he realizes, oh my God, I hate this girl. She's so annoying. But he fell in love with the subject. That speaks volumes about him, other than, maybe being a potential stalker. The point is, you got to smile. You got to say, I got to run into this kid. Again, he has got the grades, he's got everything else, but now his personality, it's authentic, it's imperfect, it's real. All right. So every educator, every parent knows this. I mean, telling a teenager not to be negative is like saying don't breathe, but you can't be negative. And with this, the other one that every educator, parent knows, the smarter the student, the less common sense. I'm going to show you sound bites from really smart students. All of these students got into the Ivy League or top tier schools, but more importantly, they're really nice kids. There's not a real genuine knucklehead among these. These are really nice kids. But I want to show you some of the things they wrote in first drafts. Schools at my high school are insanely cutthroat, only caring about their own grades. Forced to work with others. I want to study abroad to get away from my parents. I am very competitive in every aspect of my life. It is important to me to show that I'm better than everyone else. In some ways, I was able to relate to plants better than people. The pain of boring classes plagued me. Escape the complaints of my overbearing mother. If you're at home right now and your mom is sitting next to you, I just want you to know that when we're done, she's going to turn to you and say, so would you call me overbearing? So you might want to rehearse an answer now. Now, it's not just about negativity. You have to think about what you're saying. This first one, this kid was applying to MIT. He wrote, anytime we did not get the desired results from an experiment, we modified the data for the sake of getting good grades, because clearly that's what MIT wants. I was in awe as fictional hackers in the Matrix used their technical prowess to reveal government secrets. I was inspired to try it out myself. Hello, Homeland Security. I and my group of insatiably curious young geniuses, please don't tell a college you're a genius. As I audaciously and humbly lead my fellow peers, people are attracted to my charisma. Yeah, no. All right, this next one, I had to read it over and over again because I thought I was missing something in the sentence. I know I want to do something with the human body. All right, now, this next one, got to explain this. This is a native English speaking American born student. Okay. Very bright. She ended up in, I want to say Dartmouth. I think she's in Dartmouth. This is what she wrote. I would like to take advantage of the study abroad program in the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C., where I can surround myself with government buildings. Can't make this stuff up. All right. My favorite aspect of the school is its location. As an avid skier and snowboarder, I am overjoyed that Cornell is less than a half an hour away from a nearby ski resort, because clearly a college just wants to, to beat you to drop your bags and go skiing. I believe there would be a utopia in my lifetime. Now, here's the thing about this one that would scare an admissions person. They want you to be optimistic. They want you to like reach for the stars, but they want you to also be grounded in reality. They want you to be safe. Look, you got to remember, the admissions person wants you to be happy, healthy, productive. They don't want to worry that you're going to be the kid under your bed in the fetal position, crying on the phone saying, get me out of here. I don't want to go here. I would read this as an admissions person and think, as soon as this kid discovers that life isn't rainbows and unicorns, is he going to be okay? All right. Oh, this is one. So I told a student that, it's very important, like, to show them, an interest in being well-rounded at college, not just focus on your major. So schools have a core curriculum, liberal arts. This was his interpretation of being well-rounded. By taking beekeeping and the science of beer class, I am assured a well-rounded education. Now, if you want to say that classes like beekeeping and science of beer show me that your school wants me to have fun while I'm learning, that's perfect. But I wouldn't exactly call this a well-rounded education, although it would be kind of interesting. All right. Oh, this is for a kid from Dix Hills from years ago. My parents worked very long hours. As an only child, I found myself home alone quite often. I taught myself how to make noodle soup, adjust the oven, and adjust the air conditioning and use the oven. Hello, Child Protective Services. All right. So my reason for showing you these is not to scare you about the future of our country. The reason is, every one of these kids, when I sent them back their soundbite, they were mortified. They couldn't believe what they wrote. And the reason is, there's something weird. There's this weird disconnect between the brain and the hand, that you think one thing and it comes out totally different. The point is, every one of you is capable of making a mistake like this. So when you write something, first draft, second draft, third draft, you need to read it to yourself out loud and ask yourself, am I putting my best foot forward? Am I insulting anybody? Am I being negative? Because the way what you're thinking may come out like one of these many things. You want to avoid it. So always, always go back, read it out loud slowly, and make sure you're being positive, not negative, not insulting, that sort of thing. Okay, colleges are going to ask you about your extracurricular activities, summer experiences, work. To me, this visual says it all. It's never about the activity itself. It's about you in the activity. So whether you're on a soccer team or a robotics club, it's what's that relationship like with the other people? What's it like to win together? What's it like to lose together? What's that bus ride home, after a terrible loss? How do people support each other? It's not the activity itself, it's you in the activity. So here's a really good example. So this is a girl that on paper, everything was robotics. The school asked, tell us about your most meaningful extracurricular activity. It was, of course, her robotics club. She was the president. She won all these awards. This was the first draft. Get the cart. Someone get the cart. Do we have the box on the bus? Is the robot arm here? And where are those freshmen? Someone call those freshmen. It was the morning of the robotics competition, and 20 tech nerdlings, as we were called, were all scrambling to get on the bus before we missed check-in. Our chief commander and club advisor, Mr. Park, was shouting orders. The robot arm was missing. My partner and I were trying to fix the string on a mousetrap vehicle that was refusing to cooperate. Sophomores were huddled in a corner trying to cram last-minute information into their heads that they can use as an arsenal to beat down the other teams. The secretary was trying to collect last-minute permission slips from everyone. "Let's go," shouted Mr. Park. We all rose with a roar and cheered, calling out our battle cries. We were ready to go to war with the other robotics teams in the state. If I was a creative writing teacher, I would tell her, "I love this. This is great as a beginning for a short story." But for the admissions person, there's nothing in here that I don't already know from just looking at her transcripts. Now, much earlier, I said the best essays are hidden in plain sight. So I said to her, "I'm going to ask you a question. Don't think, just whatever pops into your head. Other than the robotics themselves, what's the most fun and the best part?" And she said, "The bus rides." And I said, "I want you to write about the bus rides." And this became the actual essay. Earning a medal at the robotics competition, especially after the many hours of preparation that a team puts in, should be the most gratifying part of the whole experience. It's not. It's the bus rides. No one is allowed to study for tests and do homework. Cell phones are turned off. We all just tease each other, laugh at dumb jokes, and sing silly songs and limericks. We eat from a 2-gallon sized container of pretzels and probably talk way too loud. It's the one time during the school day that we were not students or science and tech nerds. We were just teens. I get to experience my teammates outside of academics where we all feel safe enough to be goofy. The bus rides always end too soon and we return to our game faces. First, however, despite a warning from our advisor, we open the emergency exit at the back of the bus and leap out together. Her mother called me frantic, said, "Yeah, but that ending, that's illegal." Again, authentic, imperfect, real. You got to love this kid. She ended up, this was for, I believe, Caltech, which is where she ended up. All right, I just need to make this one point. Things like this do happen on occasion. It's with 800 students applying to college. Doesn't happen often, but you don't want to be one of these students. So this student, this 2 years ago, got into Wharton, UPenn Wharton, great school. He wrote a beautiful essay about his mother's death. Right before he left for campus, the school had to call home for a couple of bureaucracy type questions. Mom answered, alive and well, admission revoked. There is no reason that you need to make a story up. Like I said much earlier, you don't have to invent aliens. You all have a story. Don't take this type of chance. It's just not worth it. All right. So the Common App essays, with the exception of one new one this year, they all remain the same. So the first one, central to your identity, anything with intrinsic value. Here's what this means. We have all been conditioned that you do things in school for the grade, for the reward, for the award. But are there things you do just for the love of it? Do you play the guitar just because you love playing the guitar? Do you play basketball, not on the school team, but just because you like to play basketball in your driveway with your friends? Is maybe art? Do you do art just for you? It's not for a grade. It's not for an award. It's just for you. So anything with intrinsic value is a really good essay. Here's a girl that had a really loud, annoying laugh. Always got made fun of. It embarrassed her family all the time. But at some point, she embraced it. And she said, "This is who I am." And when people saw how comfortable she was in her own skin, they became comfortable being themselves too. All right. You don't want to write about having a competitive nature. Love of learning is as bad as, thirst for knowledge. All right. First generation American, years ago, this was something to write about. Now it's relatively cliche. Okay. Failure. I mentioned the one before with the kid with the violin. Maybe it's a setback. So you have a job teaching kids. It could be religion. It could be swimming. It could be anything, right? You have in your head how you're going to teach these kids. You get there Saturday morning and these kids are bouncing all over the walls. Now you have a setback. How am I going to reach them? Now your whole thing is, what do I need to do to get these kids to sort of calm down and pay attention? Again, robotics, soccer, it doesn't matter. You go to a championship expecting to win, you guys get killed. But what happens when the smoke clears? Do you think about all the amazing memories you had with this team over the course of the year, the friendships, the bonding, the experience? And at the end of the day, as nice as a trophy would have been, aren't those relationships way more important than the trophy? At least I hope you say yes. Again, torn ACL, you want to stay away from. Now, it's okay to say, like, let's say you took an AP course, you underestimated how hard it was. That first test, you didn't do really well. However, whoops, what happened? Oh, however, you got to be careful. It can't just be, so I studied harder and then I did better. If you went through hoops, so let's say there's a class, doesn't even have to be an AP class, a class that's really killing you, but you started going to extra help. You started looking up YouTube tutorials. You went to the smartest kid in the class and said, can you help me? If you went through hoops to get to that other side, that can be an essay. This is definitely the hardest one they have. Challenge your belief. I mean, gender roles in New Jersey, for instance, I don't know if you're aware of this, but high schools have girls ice hockey teams. So in New Jersey, when I work with kids in New Jersey, if a girl is on an ice hockey team, this is a perfect essay because it's challenging gender roles. You want to stay away from any hot button topic. These are not persuasive essays. Now, you can write about questioning authority, whether it's a teacher, a parent, a police officer. However, think back to some of those crazy things people wrote. You have to be very careful. If you write an essay about questioning authority, you need to do so incredibly respectfully. You don't want to come across as you're going to be the student that if they decide they're not going to serve sushi anymore, you're going to burn down the science building. All right. So here's the new one for this year. Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? When I saw this for the first time, this was my reaction. I personally don't like this. However, that doesn't mean you don't have a good essay for it. My fear with this is that people will end up writing the person's biography. It's like, congratulations, grandma's going to be accepted, but not you. So do not turn this into that person's biography. The other thing that I could predict is a big one, which is an essay with a relationship with a special needs person, showed me that we're not that different, taught me to embrace who I am. Those are very cliche kind of things. You want to avoid them. The way you could write this, if you have it, has somebody in your life ever gone above and beyond normal expectations? It could be a teacher, a friend, a store clerk, a stranger on the street, somebody that went. I mean, I remember walking into a store to buy something and the sales clerk said, listen, between you and me, you don't want to buy that here. Down the block at so-and-so store, they have the same exact thing, and it's like $25 cheaper. He didn't have to do that. He could have lost his job. That was a surprising thing. And that was doing something for somebody very surprising. Maybe you have a teacher. Let's say you're involved in dance, but it's not a school activity. You're in Farmingdale, you belong to a dance studio. There's a dance recital, has nothing to do with the high school. And your teacher shows up and watches you, comes to the recital. That's going above and beyond for a teacher. So these could be good essays. Here's a great example. Now, this is a brand new essay, but for a different essay, this girl out in California, they have what they call the Explorers, and she got to every Saturday be with the LA Fire Department every Saturday training with them. And when she first did this, she really was nervous. She's 4'11". She's a girl. She expected to be treated differently. But what surprised her is they treated her like anybody else. They didn't make fun of her size. They didn't treat her differently because she's a girl. And it gave her a tremendous amount of self-confidence. And paying it forward, she discovered the difference between helping somebody and guiding somebody. Your friend says, hey, I didn't understand question 3 on the homework. Well, most students, most friends just give you the answer, right? But that's not really guiding anybody. That's not helping anybody. Guiding them would be, okay, I will help you figure it out, but I'm not going to give you the answer. And I know some of you going, my friend will kill me. All right. The next one, personal growth. Now, personal growth is look, nobody that you've all changed since the 9th grade, right? Everybody changes in little increments, little experiences we have along the way. We reflect and change. So, here's a kid who always equated everything by grades. If you get an A in physics, then physics. Well, this kid goes for lifeguard training, um, getting straight A's in all the tests. He's passing everything. I'm going to be a great lifeguard, gets a job as a lifeguard. First day on the job, something happens and he freezes. And it's that realization, that personal growth of the information is just the foundation, but you sort of don't know nothing until you roll up your sleeves and do it. Somebody might have always taken themselves way too seriously, and I got to get good grades, and I got to get into a good school, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and then learning to finally not take themselves so seriously. I could take the work seriously, but I don't necessarily have to take myself so seriously. That's a personal growth moment. Don't write about your driver's license. I have seen so many essays that basically say the same thing. Once I had my driver's license, I realized that I'm responsible for the life and death of everybody in front of me. Yeah, don't do that. I love I went away for a week to, soccer camp or science class. It's like, oh my God, I had to get myself up every day by myself, get dressed and go to the field and back. Like I'm like a grown up, like total growth. By the way, question 5 and question 2 are basically the same question, the one on failure or setback, because a lot of times that setback teaches us a lesson that is about our personal growth. So it really is how you want to frame it. Do you want to frame it as the lesson you learned from a setback, or do you want to frame it as the setback led to my personal growth? So either way, it's fine. Stay away from life is too short, seize the moment, very cliche. Now, the Common App has added an opportunity if you want to write about your experience during COVID. You want to avoid one thing. I had to adjust to working from home and was disappointed that my basketball season was canceled. Now, I don't want to undervalue what that must be like, but this is 97% of all of us, right? So if you don't have to do this essay, but if you're going to respond to how COVID affected you personally, stay away from something that could be incredibly cliche and cover everybody. You want to stay away from taking life for granted, the realization that life can change instantly. These are all very cliched sort of things. However, did you discover, the importance of slowing down and having quality time? Did your family start to have a game night every Thursday night? Did you guys actually eat together and have conversations, or, FaceTime game night with cousins and uncles and grandparents? And, prior to COVID, we've been all running around like lunatics. You never have time to be with each other. And this has sort of forced people to kind of communicate. And so maybe, you learned that, everybody, look, I grew up in Oceanside, and like every other teenager, oh, I hate my town. It sucks. I want to get out. Maybe you feel the same about where you live, but once COVID hit, look at how your community stepped up. Maybe there's things that happened in your community that made you realize, wow, these people really care about each other. Maybe you did something, you created an opportunity to help. I read about a girl on Long Island that started an organization, not an organization, but they went shopping for senior citizens or anybody that had immune compromised. They were afraid to leave their house to go to the grocery store. She would get the list from them. She'd go shop for them. and by the way, she didn't make any money. This wasn't for profit. She just, they would pay for the groceries, but that was it. No tip, no nothing. We just want to do this. So again, you can address COVID, and of course, God forbid you lost somebody in your family, or you had COVID and it really, knocked you out for a long time. I mean, those are the things that you can write about, but these top ones are the ones you want to sort of avoid. This one initially I really liked, but my caution to it is, you have to remember that the admissions person could have been an art history major, or something, totally useless like me. I was an English major. What did that do? The point is, don't get technical. All right, don't get technical at all if you choose this. The other thing is, be careful that you're not writing about what you're going to major in, because again, like I said earlier, that becomes one-dimensional. Now, I don't like this last one because, you run into the risk of, like I said, becoming pretentious, although clarifying creativity. So I'll tell you one that somebody did write that was brilliant because it didn't really fit in anywhere else. So here's a girl that became a lifeguard. She was so excited. First day on her job, it was at a lake. She showed up at 6:00 in the morning. She was, waiting for the boss to show her where her big, chair was going to be. And she had her whistle, and oh boy. And the boss walked up to her with a big garbage bag and a shovel and said, look, every night goose poop all over the lakefront. Shovel up the goose poop. Now, we all know people who would say, excuse me, I was hired as a lifeguard. I quit. I'm not touching goose poop. Her attitude was, you know what? Life is eventually going to deal me goose poop. I might as well learn now how to deal with goose poop, and I'm going to be the best goose poop picker up there can be. And it was such a great essay. It was funny. It was authentic. It was real. It was excellent. So creativity is fine if it's really authentic and you're not forcing it. Same thing with catchy openings. Avoid these because most of them, a quote, a question, dialogue, something that ends with everything changed the day I received. They seem and they feel forced. This was what, or whoosh, my tennis racket pierced the air, scattering the surrounding particles, but unable to connect with the fuzzy green and white sphere that taunted me. These are organic. Embrace the goose poop. I had lost my sister's A. It was once my tormentor, my laugh. This was no ordinary laugh. Okay. Creativity is great if it's real and you're not forcing it. Okay. Starting early, that's the name of the game here. You're going to want to write essays and rewrite them. So the earlier you start, the better. I believe it'll be discussed, but you have a boot camp at the high school over the summer. Perfect opportunity. There's a writer's joke. How many writers does it take to change a light bulb? Does it have to be a light bulb? In other words, you're going to want to show your essay to 1 million people. Don't. You have a guidance counselor or an English teacher. You don't show it to your best friend who's the editor of the school newspaper or your cousin who went to Columbia. Show it to a professional in the building that has read thousands of essays. Now, you have to remember, here's the thing. You could be perfect on paper, but if that particular college wants a violin player the year that you play the violin, but they want a tuba, you're out of luck. There are so many variables out of our hands. The good news is there is no one right college, and any rejection from a college is never personal. It's not about you. It's about one of the variables. And again, if you play the violin during the year they want a tuba, that's it. But there are so many colleges. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. All right. So, you go to a deli, you get a sandwich and they give you a pickle and you look at the pickle and you go, I didn't ask for a pickle. This is the pickle portion because it's not really about the essays, but I get asked these questions all the time. With a number of variables, I always feel like applying to 5 or 6 colleges is a little scary. On the other hand, 18 colleges is overkill. 10 to 12 is a really good range. Definitely apply to reach schools. Holistically, you might be what they want. you can only answer this for yourself. How did you get your grades? Did you have tutors? Did you, were they artificially inflated because you had so much help? And now you get into a college where all these other students, nobody needed help. And now you're struggling. You don't want to struggle. College should be 4 years of work, but not 4 years of struggle. Cause after that, it's like the rest of your life and it's all downhill. I should be a motivational speaker. Also check your website. Now, you might think this is silly, but Harvard rescinded admission offers to at least 10 students for offensive memes in a private Facebook group chat. Same thing with email addresses. This first one, Cutie Pie Girl, she was applying to Bryn Mawr as a women's studies major. All right, Village Idiot, great kid, ended up at Yale. Village Idiot, not a good first impression. Or the 10S player forever. Yeah, no. Once you get into the school, you could be the Village Idiot. You could be whatever you want. Until then, first name, last initial, last name.